And we're going to just talk about some of the ways that we can help develop a spending plan that will help you reach your financial goals. Now, let me tell you a little bit about Transformance. Our mission is to empower individuals and families to achieve financial freedom. We adhere to the highest business standards and maintain our accreditation by an independent third party known as the Council of Accreditation. Our counselors are certified by the National Foundation for Credit Counseling, and over the past 42 years, our educational programs and counseling coaching sessions have positively impacted over 1.7 million lives. I'm proud to work for a 501c3 nonprofit organization that's dedicated to keeping the clients at the very heart of everything we do. Transformance vision is a financially sound community that values integrity, compassion, professionalism, innovation, and accountability. We're working with strategic partnerships that share our vision, and together we can empower individuals and families with resources that will provide long-term financial stability. What is your vision of financial success? Have you given it any thought lately? There's a variety of things that could impact an individual or family's response to that. Some of the influence and factors that could actually define that could be based on the individual's personality and attitude, as well as knowledge and capacity. Other elements could include what you desire as security, freedom of choice, and that could be both now and in the future. We're going to give you some guidelines throughout this session that can help you determine how close are you already to your financial vision. And here's some ideas listed on this slideshow that can kind of give you an idea of what we might identify to help some barriers that might be keeping you back from your financial freedom. When we're looking at when we're developing the foundation for Money Basics, we want to determine, first of all, the areas that are in your budget where you have to spend, where you need to spend, and where you actually could want to spend. All of those may have a different priority system in each family, but most of us will all have some measure of income going towards shelter through a big part of our lives, and that could be in an area of rent or mortgage payment. If you're in a home that you're sharing expenses, that could be your contribution on a monthly basis to help offset some of the owners or the on the lease agreement, the renter's agreement. If you're just making that contribution, still categorize that in one of your have-to portions of your income allotment. Some of the need-to areas, again, can vary depending on how you have your budget already set up, but some of those areas like clothing and food, medicines, utilities will be also considered in perhaps a have-to category, but they just have a little bit more variables that we can control over. When you're determining transportation in the area of what you might need, as far as we've listed under the have-to car column, it could be that if you don't have a specific, maybe you don't have a car payment, maybe you are in a position where that has been paid off, or that has been transferred ownership by a family member to you, but there would still be some have-tos in that category that's listed, such as your insurance and maybe some of the areas of maintenance. So those are some of the basic areas that you would want to think through when you're creating the foundation. Some of the personal financial barriers that we've identified here can not be under our control. There are a few things here that you can maybe identify with. And I'm going to go ahead and look at some of the areas of the barriers that maybe you have had control over, but maybe you just haven't identified the real cost of these dollar burning dragons, as we have titled this. Take a moment, look through this list. Are you seeing any of your familiar favorites that might be some of those barriers that we deal with, but maybe hadn't even identified it as a barrier? As we talk about steps to gain financial success, we've already talked about how the foundation could be the goal. We're starting already to take inventory, and before we can make that next plan, we may need to actually go back and identify, reassess my goal, and determine based on my inventory of where my money has been going, what I need to do in order to make that next step for that successful goal to be achieved. When we're setting goals, our goal timelines typically line up in three different areas. We call them an area of short-term, middle or incremental, and long-term goals. And to be able to determine how these are going to build on one another to make an overall lifetime financial freedom plan, you may want to be more specific in some of the areas of what you really want. Are you going to, what is it, how much of a priority is it overall? And help yourself to decide what timeline do you really want to accomplish this in. When we're talking about time frames, to give you an idea, we've given you this little template here to show when we're referencing a short-term goal, this could be somewhere within a 1-year span time frame. The intermediate, closer to the 2-year, and then anything over 2 years, we would make that into more of a long-term goal that you would want to achieve. But periodically, you would want to see how, even within those time frames, when a long-term goal becomes just a vision but never really placed on a calendar timeline, it may be something that a dream that becomes unattainable because you just didn't put on it a time frame of when you would want to purchase it or make that purchase or goal happen. When you're looking at the area of organization, after you have written down your goal, it's very important that you take a place in your home and create a virtual office for yourself, even if it's just a table and just a portable file cabinet. Getting organized is necessary if you're going to not get distracted by feeling like you've got to go to another room to pick up a calendar or calculator. Having it all together in one place can really help you make a lot of headway in getting accomplished what you want to get accomplished. When you're taking the financial inventory, you're going to want to see right now, what are you spending? If you're a spender or a saver, you're going to have an idea based on your list of your inventory list of how you've already been spending, what adjustments that you're going to need to be making. If you're a spender, you could maybe find already some areas in your list of spending to cut back on. If you're a saver, you may need to allot a little less in some areas to create some categories that are going to be a realistic goal for your realistic budget for you to use. We're going to be talking about the different type of expenses that can vary. That could be fixed or that you're going to have set every month. Some of these expenses that you're going to identify in your financial inventory are going to be variable. It can be seasonal, and then they can be even periodic. It might not happen every month or every even 3 months, but if you don't create some measure per month of funds set aside for periodic expenses, those expenses can creep up on you and really crash your budget. When we're looking at some of the factors that may influence how you shop and how you make your have to, need to, or want to list, some of those areas may be in more of a personality priority. So you may want to just go back and say, okay, what am I doing to keep avoiding, what can I do to bring some of these barriers down? If I need clothes, but I don't necessarily need them from um, a higher end um, store, that may be something that you can still have, but make some adjustments based on what your budget is allowing for the overall success. And again, some of the short-term expenses can get paid off, and that will free up some money to release to add to a different category that you may want to really strive for within a shorter amount of time. If you don't evaluate your budget at least monthly instead of yearly, I think you're going to be a little bit uh, set back at uh, really making the progress you think you could be making if you're not really putting a pen to the calendar and tracking those goals. One of the areas that can make a big difference in moving forward with your plan is record keeping and uh, giving yourself a view, taking the time to really understanding statements. One of the templates here that we're giving you is breaking down some important areas of a statement that would be important to view every month. Once you receive a statement, identify in that area uh, what the balance is, what the payment is going to be, and when is that payment going to be due. If you don't have those areas in the APR, let me point that out too. If you are not paying your accounts as agreed, many times the APR can increase. And another area of importance to understand is if your balance is over half your credit line, that can impact your credit score. So always try to pay your balances one time, every time, and if you have extra funds to pay on any one of your accounts, be sure to give those funds to an account that may be over and above half of your credit limit. The planning component of the money basics is pretty much a crucial area to start making a plan. Use what we call a SMART template. Be specific about what your goal is. Put a measurable element of how you're going to track to see if you're actually obtaining your goal. Make sure that it's really a realistic goal and you can achieve that within the timeline you are going to give yourself. Make sure it's relevant. Make sure it's not a goal that you have set several years back and never obtained. Make sure it's relevant to what your goals are now, and be sure and put a timeline on it. Identify it if it's going to be a short-term, mid-term, or long-term goal. The following information is actually going to help you also facilitate a functioning plan. So let's start out with identifying how crucial a calendar is. Having a calendar where you can look at what money is going to be necessary by a certain time within the month is going to help set a marker to your to make a successful plan. The weekly budget sheet, it will also be incredibly effective if you're getting paid just on a weekly or biweekly method, or I'm sorry, payment. And the envelope method is also going to be an effective way to help you determine how to budget out certain, maybe even categories that have been identified even in your budget as those dragon burning areas that if you're not tracking, keeping them maybe funds just in an envelope for that particular area, you could overspend easily in those areas. We've got a contingency fund identified here. This basically is going to help identify some of those what we call irregular, but they're not really surprise type we don't know when to expect them, but expenses such as something like maintenance of the car. If you have a vehicle but you don't create a contingency fund, a maintenance fund, you know that something may need to have an upgrade, like a tire or a windshield wiper, but you just don't know maybe when that's going to happen. The contingency fund is going to help plan for the unexpected expected expenses. When we talk about keeping your records together, a file folder, um, even if it's just a small one, you don't have to have a big file cabinet. But and a lot of times now we've got a lot of online documents, but it's really important to identify um, where those areas of documents are, statements, things that you might have like warranties or receipts, some where your insurance deductibles are, so that when something comes up, you're going to be in a position to save money if you already have, say, like a warranty or know what your deductible would be on some given insurance situations. Make it a family affair. If you have kids or if you are just a primary person to do it in a couple situation of tracking expenses and keeping records, be sure you keep the other ones informed where you do keep your information and how your system works. And why that matters is because if something were to uh, make it where you would not be able to uh, step in and um, follow up on a month-to-month basis. Say you had an emergency, you had to leave the home for unexpected time frame. To be able to keep everything on track, someone else needs to know your system in order to be able to help follow through that. So, and start talking about just some of the basic goals and timelines of when you want to achieve that, so everybody else can kind of talk about it, get excited about it, and keep everybody on track. Make sure that when you're making decisions with some of the um, money that is more flexible, that everybody gets to contribute with that thought as well. When you're looking at the methods of tracking your money that can help you, yeah, envelope method sometimes is one of the areas that can bring some order to tracking your expenses. Of course, there are some advantages and disadvantages to that system, and if you're not real disciplined to transfer cash from one envelope to the other to keep making your ends meet, it can get a little bit um, at the end of the month leave you short. So sometimes if you're using the envelope method, you might want to still create uh, some little notes on the outside of how much per week that you're allotting. So if you get paid like once a month and you're putting all your funds in the envelope, um, identify per week how much you're allotting yourself. And you may want to just be sure and keep up with your receipts and make sure that if you're overspending on one week, you may want to pull back on the second week or vice versa. But you have a system on the outside of this to kind of track and let you know where you're at on that month. Auto payments, you may have something that's set up already online, so you may not actually have the cash to actually make that payment, but still identify it with an envelope to let yourself know how much of your funds are going toward that category. When you're looking at a successful spending plan, the savings category is going to be crucial. Even if you're thinking, just I can't come up with $25 per paycheck. That may be a difficult find as you get started. Don't just set that aside of one day I may start saving. At the very least, start getting maybe a jar and putting your change in it. If you're identifying your inventory of spending, more than likely you'll be able to come up with a few dollars on a weekly basis that can help develop that savings. And it's crucial to start paying a little bit to yourself on the side so that you can have a healthy uh, financial plan that's going to move you forward. If you use all your funds, even to pay off debt, but do not create a savings plan, when something comes up, as we said earlier, unexpected expense uh, that you just didn't know when it was going to come up in the dailies, that savings, if you've established that, uh, can really help save your budget. When we talk about savings, a lot of times I will hear someone say, well, I already contribute to a 401 savings, so I do save. That is a part of a savings plan, but that's more towards a retirement savings plan, a crucial element of your budget for sure. But if you'll break down some of the areas of savings in different categories, like the contingency fund that we've talked about, versus a education account or an investment account or basic cost of maybe a goal that you want to maybe do a remodel in a room or an upgrade on your wardrobe. Some of those areas too can be identified under just a very specific savings area. When you're looking at the savings plan, you should always make sure that it is in alignment with the goals that you are wanting to achieve. Some of these areas are going to be changing, so be sure that if you've got one of the areas in your short-term of your short-term planning paid down, you may want to be real specific to add those funds now to a savings account to help those midterm and long-term goals actually be accomplished. There's 3 steps in savings. You can determine based on what we've referenced as a weekly plan by the envelope method, or you can review your current spending behavior under a monthly plan to determine the overall view within the year. How are you meeting your goals, and are there areas within the budget that you have found that have not been as crucial as what you had maybe identified in your need to column when you started your inventory that you could add to your savings goal? One of the plans that is offered to some of the Dallas County residents is called a AIM program. This is currently a program that has a demographic area that is in probably about 4 areas of the Dallas area, Collins, Rockwell, South Denton. These type of demographic areas can take advantage of our program called AIM, and it's a savings program that for every dollar that you make in a individual deposit account up to $25, Transformance will meet that deposit as long as you have participated also in the commitment of the financial literacy program. As we've referenced with the eligibility areas, we're also wanting to identify you have a free access to educational counseling coaching sessions, and couples can actually both set up their own individual savings account to maximize the benefits of this program. And if you haven't taken advantage of that, or if you know somebody that could really benefit from a match savings program, share this information with your friends and family so they too can take advantage of this program. There's different types of services that you can set up your savings account in, and some of the things some of the different types of ways that you utilize these services can really help you move forward. If you're looking at developing a savings that's an automatic a transfer, that can really benefit you. If you're using the different types of options of a checking versus a debit, maybe you're leaning towards more the cashier's check or money order, utilize some of these. Find out what your bank or credit union will allow you to use, maybe as part of the benefit of the membership there or having your account there. There's a variety of different benefits with banks and credit unions, so be sure that you understand there is a difference and take advantage of knowing those. Also, at the end of there, we're just talking about some of the safeguards that could be a whole lot safer than just trying to put your money under the mattress. It could be that if you're looking at the banks and credit unions too, you want to know how they are securing your funds and how that could be a benefit to you to utilize their service. As we conclude the webinar today, we want to be sure that everyone has been informed about our Pocket Change phone app or mobile app. Pocket Change is another tool that's been designed to give you the skills and information for you to gain confidence and take control of your financial future. By improving your financial capability, you're going to be able to make positive changes in a long-term behavior that's going to give you financial success. You can download this free mobile app and start sharing it with your family and friends so that you can really benefit from the most of all the financial tools that are available through our service. I want to thank you today for taking time to attend Money Basics. Visit our website. Give us a call if you have any additional questions about Money Basics, and we'll be more than glad to answer those for you.